I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Mike Handcock. I've known Mike on and off now for about 7 or 8 years through our association, National Speakers Association here of New Zealand. Mike's spoken in 46 countries around the world. He has spoken over 2,000 times to over 300,000 delegates. And Mike is one of only 28 people in the world to hold the designation of Global Speaking Fellow. And that's a reflection of the work that he has been doing all around the world. You already heard about Ali spending the last 3 years in 56 different countries around the world. Well, Mike's exactly the same as that. He's been spending all of his time working around in 46 different countries over the last couple of years. But the best way to introduce Mike is not for me to do it, but for this.
For over 10 years, he has worked with 250,000 entrepreneurs in 48 countries globally, 14 best-selling books, acknowledgement as one of only 26 speakers in the world to be certified globally, production credits for a feature film, and mentioned by a US president for his philanthropic activities. Mike Handcock has an immense knowledge, experience, and achievements to share. Orphaned at 15, Mike's journey has seen him work with billionaires, industry giants, university professors, and native shaman to discover and unpack the way the world, the mind, and business truly works. The result of this determination and quest is someone of immense wisdom, passion, consideration, and described by many as having one of the most unique skill sets on the planet. With the #1 hit as a musician, success as an entrepreneur, international best-selling books, and badges like Ancient Wisdom Expert, Philanthropist, Filmmaker, and rock star, Mike is going to challenge your thinking and enlighten you with some of his discoveries from quantum physics, the ancient masters, cutting-edge business trends, technologies, and personal experience. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to have your view of the world altered. Please put your hands together for Mike Handcock.
Thank you. Hello. How are we? It's wonderful to see you all. It was July 2006, and it was my very first trip to India. Who's been to India? You get it, right? It was my very first trip. And I was staying at the Taj Hotel in Mumbai, which was a phenomenal hotel until it got hit by terrorists a few years later, which many of you may remember. And I was asked to do several speeches there, but one of those speeches that I was asked to do was, when I found out the venue, I was quite surprised. The venue was in an apartment. I thought, I've never spoken in an apartment before. I have spoken in a bus, many times actually, but in Auckland, travelling around Auckland, giving a keynote speech to an organisation with Peter Leach, the Mad Butcher, as my apprentice, so that was weird. But this was in an apartment. When I got to the apartment, which was a penthouse, owned by a lady called Maya Shahani, and Maya is a true slumdog millionairess, I saw why we were having the event in the apartment, because we could fit 100 people in the lounge room. And so, in meeting Maya for the first time, who was 60 years old at that stage, I asked her, Maya, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And she looked at me and she said, you know, I had heart surgery recently, a few years back, and I was reading the National Geographic. Have you ever seen the photo of there's a child just on the ground and there's a vulture coming to get the child? I said, yes, I've seen that photo. It's a very famous photo. And she said, well, I want to start a foundation, and that foundation is going to stop that sort of thing. And then she said, Mike, click your fingers. Actually, everybody click your fingers with me. She said to me, Mike, do you realise that around the world a child dies every second? and I'd never thought about it. And she said, food and everything for children is one thing, but empowering the parents will stop that. So I want to start a foundation that provides enlightened education for these children and skills for their parents so that they can go and work and then eventually pay for that education. I said, it's a fantastic idea. I said, how are you going to do it? She said, I have no idea. I said, okay. So that evening, at that apartment overlooking the Bay of Bengal, speaking to 100 people, I shared Maya's vision. And I asked her simple questions. By a show of hands, who'd be prepared to come back here tomorrow morning at 8:30 and help Maya launch that vision? About 30 people put up their hands. The next morning, a dozen people showed up and we started the Sage Foundation. You see, the saddest moments of our life are when we realise our missed potential. Every single one of you as leaders, which you all are, of our era, has this most magnificent potential. And I certainly didn't want to get to the age of this lady in the picture and not realise my potential. And I certainly didn't want Maya, who'd recovered from heart surgery, to not realise her potential either. The saddest moments in our lives are moments of unrealised potential. You see, every single one of you, myself included, is part of a dream. Maybe it's somebody else's dream. Maybe if you're just the barman at the top rooftop bar at Marina Bay Sands, you don't realise that you're actually part of somebody's dream who created that. Maybe if you work for a major corporate, like you do, Dennis, Hewlett-Packard. One of my good friends was one of the first 10 employees at Hewlett-Packard. It was somebody else's dream. And we're all part of that. And we have a responsibility to carry that torch forward, to not let that torch die. Every single one of us, whether we're an administrator, a cleaner, or the CEO, we have that responsibility. And New Zealand needs to be celebrated for its leaders. And they're not only in sports, they're in all walks of life. Many of you in this room are those people. But it comes down to fundamental things. So when the experts now unpeel the onion that was Richie McCaw, the greatest All Black captain of all time, they bring it down to 3 things, just 3 points to his leadership. Number 1 was respect. He never felt that he deserved respect. He knew he needed to earn it on a daily basis. The second one was courage. To always put himself first, to do the hard yards, to go for the hard ball when he knew that others may not have been thinking about going for the hard ball. And the third one was communication, communication, communication. And that's the same for us in our businesses and lives. We don't deserve respect. Well, Ali does, right? But we don't deserve respect. We have to earn it. We have to have courage, whether it be courage to walk up on a stage and speak, courage to make significant changes in your business, courage to do something entirely different, which in the tech space they call pivoting these days. And we have to communicate, communicate, communicate constantly. You see, there's a powerful and profound force that has joined us in the last few years of consciousness. And this powerful and profound force, which has a basis in ancient wisdom and quantum physics, means one thing. And that one thing is that now we have to make a choice. As leaders in our business, we have to make a choice. You hear our consciousness all the time. You'll turn on the radio now and you'll listen to conversations that were never had before. I was in PricewaterhouseCoopers having a coffee waiting for a meeting, and people were talking about consciousness, life after death, spirituality. In PwC, I thought, wow, times have changed, right? That never happened 10 years ago. But there's one thing that is a decision that each and every one of us as leaders in our life and business have to make. We have to decide whether we're going to move forward being a conscious leader or whether we're just going to be a simple caretaker. Just go with the flow, just be a simple caretaker, not rock the boat too much, or whether we're actually going to step up into our potential of consciousness, which means understanding the imprint of the decisions that you're making in your business on a daily basis. And many of you in this room and myself need to do this more. Kiwis don't celebrate enough. We don't celebrate. It's coming to Christmas. We might have a few drinks for Christmas, maybe some of us a few too many. But why don't we celebrate some of our successes? Why don't we celebrate when we've got that great new client? Why don't we celebrate when we've hired that new staff member? Why don't we celebrate when we've launched that new product instead of just ticking it off our to-do list? So here's a question for you. Somebody tell me what you've got to celebrate at the moment. Yes?
Getting some funding.
Brilliant, getting some funding. Can we give her a round of applause? That's awesome. And she's like, pumped! Getting some funding. Anyone else? What have you got to celebrate? Yes, at the back, and then over here. Wow, congratulations. Winning the Supreme Westpac Award. That's awesome. And then I had a couple over here I'll take. Yes?
We just opened a new clinic to help people with this stuff at the attitude.
Fantastic. You rock. That's awesome. And there was one more I thought around here. I heard a voice. Everything. I love that. What a way to finish. And we should celebrate anything. I'm a composite non-celebrator. Until I met my beautiful partner, Lundy Jack, a few years ago. And now she's instilled in me, we celebrate everything. So guess what? After we finish this breakfast meeting this morning, we're not going to work for the rest today because we're going to celebrate the fact that we had an amazing time with all of you guys. This is not something I would have done. I would have gone straight to my emails 5 years ago. She doesn't even have an email address. Maybe I won't in a couple of years as well. You see, the problem with humanity at the moment and what we can be guilty of is being a sea of sameness. Our businesses look exactly identical and are run identical to that business, that business, that business. It becomes a mirror of mediocrity. And you wonder why you're only getting linear growth in your business, if at all. It's because this is your business. I've faced this in my business. I've got 5 companies. And all the time when they plateau, I look at it and go, we're a sea of sameness. We've become the same. And when you become the same, you start to not use your potential. And when you don't tap into that potential, you become sad inside and you don't know what's wrong. And everybody asks you, you've changed, something's wrong, but you don't know what it is. It's this. You're the same. Let's go back to India, this time 2008. I'm back in India. I've been there 23 times now, but I'm back in India, talking again, and this time I'm in Maya's apartment. And she says to me, Mike, you're not going to be very happy with me. I say, why, Maya? She said, well, I've been invited with the Sage Foundation to join the Clinton Global Initiative, and I've been invited to go to Hong Kong, it was, and to meet with Bill Clinton. I said, that's fantastic. Why aren't I going to be happy? She said, well, why would he want me? I said, Maya, you're awesome. And what you do is awesome. She said, well, I didn't really think that he'd want me, so I sort of, talked to my husband and we threw the application form in the bin. I said, you what? She said, well, I threw it in the bin. I didn't think he'd really want me. I said, when did you do that? She said, oh, we did it yesterday morning. I said, where's the bin? She said, in the office. So I quickly scrambled through. I pull out this application form. I look at it. It's all official, got the Clinton stamp on it and everything. So I said, this is not happening. So I said to Maya, your date of birth is the 25th of October, 1945. She goes, that's right. So I write on the top of the form. Then I said, do you have a middle name? We go through the whole thing. We'll fill in the whole form for her. I said, sign here. She goes, oh yeah, but it's too late. See, on the top of the form it says that it had to be in like yesterday. That was the last day. And I said, well, just fill it in. So she fills it in. And I write, we still had fax back in 2008. So she fills it in. I don't even know what that is now. I can't explain it to a kid, that's for sure, right? And so I write on the top of the form, here is our form. We have not heard from you. It wasn't untrue. We hadn't sent the form, so we hadn't heard from them. Now, within about 6 hours of that, we get a notification back, official letter from the CEO of the Clinton Global Initiative saying, dear Mrs. Shahani, I'm very sorry, our fax has been broken for 2 days. Thank you, universe. And we're very happy to accept this. So Maya goes to Hong Kong. And there she sits in a room with 30 other people being inducted into the Clinton Global Initiative. And she notices something. As they all walk up on stage, sit, talk to Clinton, get up, have their photo taken and walk off, she notices that she is the only person not wearing a dark blue pinstripe suit, including Clinton himself, even the women. And she's wearing a sari. And so she feels like she's standing out. Then as she gets closer to Clinton, she realizes that every single person is saying the same thing to him. Oh, President Clinton, thank you so much for having me in the Clinton Global Initiative. We do fantastic work. It'd be really great if you could help us with this. And we do this, and we do this, and we do this. And she thinks, I can't say that. I'll be a sea of sameness. So she gets to Clinton. She's next. She was one of the last. And she looks at him, and he looks at her, and he says, hello. And she smiles. And she says, do you know that you and I are exactly the same age? And he laughs, and he says, really? He said, well, you look a lot better than I do. And then she says, did you know that we had our heart operations at exactly the same time? He said, no, I didn't know that. And she said, well, while I was lying there, I thought my life was over, and I was thinking about my life and everything that I'd done and everything that I hadn't done. And then I saw you on CNN, and they were wheeling you out of surgery. You just had your surgery. You gave a thumbs up to the camera and you said, I'm so glad I've been given a second chance. I am going to make a difference with this second chance. And she said, and that meant everything to me, and that's why I do what I do. And that's why I started the Sage Foundation. It's because of you. And he teared up. And he grabbed her and he hugged her. And she said she has never felt a hug like it ever before or since. It wasn't a hug of a friend. It wasn't a hug of a colleague. It wasn't the hug of a lover. It was the hug of two souls on the same path for a moment in time. There's the picture that was taken just after that. Bill's in his blue pinstripe suit, as it is. And that's what I want to celebrate and acknowledge. I want to celebrate and acknowledge the Maya Shahanis in this room who have the courage to step out of the zone. I want to celebrate the Allies. I want to celebrate Lundy Jack, my partner, who's the most courageous person I know. It's this sort of thing that gave Alias and Bill and I the guts to go and propose the Global Speaking Summit, to bring it to the little old New Zealand where nobody wants to travel to because it's too far, but still we've got over 200 people registered now coming from all around the world. It's this sort of celebration of confidence and consciousness that allowed us just this year to launch the Global Conscious Leadership Movement, which now has over 1,500 members, and we're having our first summit in Siem Reap in Cambodia next year. We have a lot to celebrate, New Zealand. Being conscious leaders, meaning not just having a vision, but having a purposeful vision, means being transparent, not hiding things away. It means thinking about legacy, the imprint that we're making. And it thinks about having a collaborative mindset. They're the principles behind conscious leadership, and they're things we need to embrace. Now, to finish up, many of you don't know me. Many of you that do know me think of me as maybe Mike, who's the rock star, or Mike, who's the speaker or the author. So I thought, what's appropriate for you? And I chose 4 lines of lyrics out of a song I wrote. And it goes like this. And this is my message to you. We come to the crossroads. Is it right or is it left? The dancers lead the way, but the guards watch the step. Just close your eyes now and feel the moment for what it is. And catch a falling star on your fingertips. And that falling star is your potential, your life, and your legacy. Thank you very much.